Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're reviewing Cathedral on the Nintendo Switch. This review was originally written by the stupendous Mitch Vogel and has been adapted for video by me. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. About 7 years ago, a Swedish developer named Erik Lavesson, I apologize for that pronunciation because it was probably terrible, set out to build his own game engine, not knowing entirely where it might lead. As time passed and prototypes were made, a retro-style project began to coalesce, which demanded more of his time and attention. That project was Cathedral, a new 8-bit sort of style of Metroidvania, which acts as the inaugural debut of December-born Interactive. Though it does little to set itself apart from the pack, Cathedral nonetheless demonstrates the developer's strong understanding of this beloved era of gaming and stands as an enjoyable experience on its own. Cathedral starts out pretty light on story, placing you in the shoes of a mute knight in red armor who awakens in a mysterious cathedral. Who'd have thought it? After poking around a little bit and suffering a boss fight or two, an impish little ghost shows you a door in the heart of the cathedral with 5 little notches in it. The ghost has a gem which fits into one of the notches, and your quest from then on mostly revolves around exploring the cathedral and the surrounding lands as well, in search of the remaining gems and hopefully unlocking the secrets of your past. Cathedral is a Metroidvania release through and through, so the extent of your experience is spent fumbling from one area on the large map to the next, picking up lots of collectibles, upgrades, and backtracking to previous areas in search of new paths and secrets. It's a formula that you've seen done thousands of times before, and to be entirely fair, it doesn't really add a great deal to it. That being said, the mixture of difficulty, interesting level design, and the quick pace ensure that Cathedral remains an enjoyable experience from start to finish. One of the driving reasons for what keeps the adventure so thrilling is the relatively hands-free way that the player is treated. You're given some good suggestions of where you should go next, but the objectives are rarely spelt out for you, which ensures that the journey is player-led and dependent on where your whims take you. For example, we encountered one semi-secret area early in our journey that is obviously geared more towards your knight after a few upgrades have been acquired. We couldn't explore all of it and died to several one-hit kills, but persistence rewarded us with a helpful upgrade that we probably weren't quote-unquote supposed to get until much later into the journey, and that's so rewarding. Regardless of what path you find yourself taking, the varied level design is sure to test your dexterity and keeps mixing things up to keep obstacles from getting too stale. One early upgrade, for example, is found at the bottom of an unusually tall and somewhat easily traversed chamber. After collecting the upgrade, lava begins to rise from the floor, and you're tasked with running that same chamber in reverse as you desperately try to escape your impending doom. New environments are also keen to bring in new level gimmicks, which helps to give each area its own sense of identity as you're tasked with slightly altering your playstyle in order to match the fresh obstacles. The difficulty remains rather stiff as well, not quite reaching Hollow Knight levels, but nonetheless ensuring that you'll have to take a few attempts before properly mastering a boss or a challenging set piece. Luckily, death is handled here in a way that keeps you on edge and makes each failure feel a little bit more impactful than simply restarting at a checkpoint. Basically, upon losing a life, you get sent back to the last checkpoint and lose 10% of your gold. In addition to this, you can find yourself potentially starting at about half your maximum health as well, as there's a sage back in town who can, for a fee naturally, double your health for the duration of that life. Whilst you're in town, you can also spend your gold on helpful upgrades and consumables to give you an edge in the tougher parts of the map. The most helpful of these upgrades, such as an improvement to how much gold you retain on death, do not come cheap either. This naturally gives every death that extra bit of sting, and conversely gives you a nice sense of accomplishment when you finally manage to hold on to enough loot to make that expensive little buy that you want. The most interesting and useful upgrades always come from killing bosses and exploring obscure corners of the map, and these offer up a mix of standard upgrades like a dash maneuver to something like a magnet for puzzle solving. There are countless opportunities to step off the beaten path to find more of these, and if you happen to not be properly geared for a room, you can always leave a little note of it on the map and come back to it later. It's little features like this map marking function or the simple fast travel system that help to cut down down the grind and backtracking and make movement feel more purposeful overall. It should take you anywhere from 15 to 20 hours to see Cathedral through to its end, and all of this is backed up by some decent but not spectacular presentation. The visuals adhere well to the NES style limitations, but there are some liberties taken in order to improve the experience, such as the extra smooth animation for most of the sprites. Still, little features like most bosses having an all-black background are a nice touch and go a long way towards selling the old school aesthetic, even if it feels maybe a little bit played out at this point. If anything, that point really acts as the greatest criticism of Cathedral. It feels played out. The eShop is positively swamped with Metroidvanias and 8-bit style platformers by this point, and Cathedral has a hard time escaping the long shadow these other releases cast. All of the key elements of a good, engaging action platformer are here, but nothing especially stands out as being exceptional or otherwise above the bar. That being said, this is very much the equivalent of video game comfort food, and those with a deep affinity for this kind of game will doubtlessly glean plenty of enjoyment from it. Just don't come into Cathedral expecting to be blown away. Cathedral is a well-made and enjoyable action platformer that's sure to please fans of the genre, as it showcases a lot of strong level design, tough difficulty, and plenty of rewarding secrets. Even so, there's a sense that something is missing here to take that experience a step higher, as it's the epitome of just another entry in an already crowded genre. All the same, we'd give Cathedral a recommendation to anybody who enjoyed Shovel Knight or its many imitators, and is looking for something to hit that same appeal. Cathedral very likely won't be your favorite action platformer, but it's got more than enough going for it to be worth your time and money. You've reached the end of the review, and that means it's time for Alex's personal thoughts. Oh lordy! I've got to say, I have been really enjoying my time with Cathedral. I fully understand where Mitch is coming from with the limitations, but this is the kind of game that scratches a certain nostalgic itch for me. I think it's actually more of a Game Boy nostalgia itch, because I never had a NES, but it's clearly scratching something. The level design is tight, if maybe a little bit confusing, but I think that's intentional. It's meant to make you sort of rack your brains and try and really learn an environment, and it's got some serious tunes in here that slap like nothing else. And I think that's the first time I've used slap in that context. The fact that it's so open as well and really lets you just go wherever you like. I mean, there are specific things that you're supposed to do, and there is a linear series of events, at least from what I've played so far, but you can just go anywhere and do what you want. You'll no doubt be limited by your moveset until you expand said moveset and you can go to new places, but even then, when I was in an area called Poison Pavilion, I sort of thought to myself, oh, surely I've done everything here, I've got everything, and I completely missed a double jump, which was not mind-blowing, but it was just like, really? This was hiding in here, and I was about to leave and try and explore somewhere else to try and find where to go? Oh, lordy-loo. I've also got a cog from Poison Pavilion, and I've no idea what to do with it. I'm clearly the target demographic when it comes to this sort of thing, and I really love it. I do think that maybe it could have done with something maybe a little bit more original, but what it does, I think it does very well. And I think that if you look at this and you sort of think, that looks like my kind of thing, you're not going to be disappointed. But at the same time, if you're looking at it and you sort of think, doesn't that just look like a different kind of Shovel Knight? You maybe want to look a little bit more into it before dropping the money on it. But yeah, if you look at it and you think it looks like just your cup of tea, as I did when I first saw it, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's a good